What makes a good landing? Well, it's touching down at the correct speed, on the runway center line, and in your predetermined touching zone. Now, nailing all three of these is the key to a great landing, and in this video, we're going to show you exactly how to do it. Hi, I'm Greg from Pilot Institute, the online ground school that makes aviation easy. Let's start with the first key element here, which is touching down at the correct speed. Now, your airplane's energy is the combination of altitude and airspeed, and during landing, the goal is to gradually reduce the energy all the way down to zero. To do this safely, you need to fly your final approach at the correct reference speed, which is called VREF. It's typically 1.3 times the stall speed in the landing configuration, but the published speeds in your airplane's flying handbook override this general rule. The Cessna 172 manual, for example, recommends flying at the approach speed between 60 and 70 knots. This closely aligns with the 1.3 times the calibrated speed of 48 knots at maximum gross weight. So if you're flying below maximum weight, should you actually reduce your VREF? Well, if your aircraft handbook doesn't have any guidance on this, make sure to consult with your flight instructor first. In gusty winds, you should also increase VREF in order to give yourself more control authority and stall margin. A good rule of thumb here is to add half of the gust factor. So if the winds are 5 knots gusting 15, then the gust factor is 10, so you're going to add 5 knots to your VREF. Okay, so when do we start slowing from VREF during the approach? There is not one size fit all answer in this situation, but here's some general guidance that works for most training airplanes. If you are flying at VREF on glide path, you can start bringing the power back once you cross the runway threshold. This puts you about 50 feet above the ground if you are referencing a PAPI or using a VASI. You may need to reduce the power earlier or later. It depends on the condition and your touchdown point. Your next move from here will be the round out and the flare. This is where you transition from the approach phase to the touchdown phase and where you bleed off the energy. At about 10 to 20 feet above the runway, begin to gradually reduce the descent rate by raising the nose. As you do this, shift your gaze down to the end of the runway. This improves depth perception and gives you a better sense of height. Your goal is to level off a few inches right above the runway and hold it as long as possible. Continue applying elevator back pressure into the flare. Now, as the airplane runs out of energy, it will touch down at or just above the stall speed. The main wheels should be the ones touching down the runway first. This prevents damage to the nose wheel and also avoids bouncing or porpoising. If the aircraft lands in a flat attitude, it's going to carry too much energy and it's not ready to touch down. Alright, now let's get to the second objective, the centerline. The airplane needs to touch down parallel to the runway and on the centerline. Now here's how you achieve both. As you turn from the base to final, visualize the runway centerline extending towards you. Now your goal is to be right above it. The airplane's nose might be pointed to the runway or crab to the left or to the right to counteract a little bit of crosswind. That's perfectly normal. At this stage, use coordinated aileron and rudder input in order to make any lateral adjustments. Aligning the aircraft during the touchdown can be trickier to master, especially in crosswind situations. So think about the airplane's longitudinal axis as a line from the nose to the tail of the aircraft. Now this axis needs to be parallel to the runway when the wheels are touching down. If it's not, it puts side load on the aircraft landing gear. Now this can result in a jarring lurch during the touchdown or damage to the landing gear or even a runway excursion, which is something you really want to avoid. Now use the ailerons to control lateral position and the rudder in order to control the nose direction. Now for example, if you have a left crosswind, you're going to apply left aileron to keep the airplane over the centerline, wing low. At the same time, apply right rudder in order to align the nose of the aircraft with the runway. Now, this technique is called a side slip. You will need to do this even in light crosswind. Okay, now let's talk about the last objective of a good landing, which is touching down in your touchdown zone. Now, it's important to understand the difference between the aiming point and the touchdown point. The aiming point is a spot on the runway that you target during your approach. The touchdown point is where the aircraft actually lands. This is typically around 300 feet beyond the aiming point. Now, there are some painted markings on the runway that are called the aiming point. It can get a little confusing. These are big white strips that are 1,000 feet from the threshold. If you fly the VASI or the PAPI all the way down, this is where you will end up. flap. But this aiming point does not have to be your aiming point. You could also use the threshold, the numbers, a specific strip, or any spot that you decide to choose. Now your goal is to keep your aiming point in the same spot on the windshield throughout the final approach. Locking it in place ensures that you have a steady descent to the runway. In case the aiming point moves down in the windshield, it means that you're too high. In this case, lower the nose to put it back into place. If the aiming point rises, it means you are dropping below the glide path. In this case, raise the nose slightly. If the pitch change is large, make sure that you adjust the power as well in order to maintain airspeed. Aim for the smallest correction in order to achieve the desired results. As you enter the round out, the aiming point is going to pass beneath you. Now you're now on your way to the touchdown point. Now earlier, we said that the touchdown point was about 300 feet beyond the aiming point. Now this is true for typical trainers in light wind, but the actual distance depends on your airplane, on the airspeed, the weather condition, and a bunch of other things. So coming in too fast or keeping in the power in for longer is going to increase this distance, as does a tailwind. On the other hand, a headwind or a low approach speed is going to shorten it. Alright, so you've nailed the approach, you've touched down smoothly. Is the job done? Not quite. The rollout phase is just as important as any other part of the landing. Once you're on the ground, continue to apply back pressure on the control yoke for aerodynamic braking. If you have any kind of crosswind aileron deflection, increase it as you decelerate. Let the nose wheel touch down gently, then apply the brakes as lightly as possible in order to avoid skidding. Remember, your aircraft probably doesn't have ABS. Now don't forget that those crosswind control input during the taxi, you're not done flying until the aircraft shuts down. Now for short field landings, hitting your touchdown point is critical. So to learn more about how to nail your short field landings, check out this video right here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.